This is my last commentary for the year, and it comes 2 days before Christmas. And because it's the last commentary for the year, it is customary at this time that we do a year in review, which is what I did when I wrote columns in the newspaper in the last week of the year, but this is the second to last week of the year. Nevertheless, it's my last commentary for the year. And this has been quite a year. COVID pandemic continued, but at least the vaccines came. Surprisingly, we have more freedom this Christmas than we had last year because we now have vaccines, but they have not been taken up the way they should have been. And now we seem to have the Omicron variant. At least somebody in a hotel seems to have brought that with them from England. And but that's life. We continue to have corruption in high places along with crime and violence. And the violence goes unabated, not just in Jamaica. The president of Haiti, which is practically next door Jamaica, was assassinated this year. But there is hope in Jesus. And there's hope in the birth of Jesus and hope in the resurrection. Programs of unity and good family life are needed in this country, as well as programs to make sure that the wealth is circulated. If the wealth is circulated, then we will not have the amount of problems with crime, because then crime becomes more attractive when people are in poverty and hungry. I have argued for many years that the so-called Boxing Day that comes after Christmas should be Family Day. Yes, true. This year, Boxing Day falls on the 27th because the 26th is a Sunday. And next year, when it is Christmas Day on a Sunday, next year, then we have 2 Boxing Days. That's the law. But Boxing Day should be converted to Family Day. There's a long tradition in the world, and certainly in the Christian church, for making more holidays more meaningful while retaining the holiday. The history of Boxing Day goes back to England, where the servants were given a special day to get their presents. The servants in many of the castles and palaces and so on would get the cast-offs. The employers and the nobility get new clothes, so the old clothes would go to the servants. The nobility would get new linen for their beds, so the old ones would go to the servants. They would get new shoes, so the old ones would go to the servants. And these were called their Christmas presents. But the servants had to work on Christmas Day, so the day afterwards was when they packed these things into boxes. And it was called Boxing Day. It had nothing to do with the sport of boxing. But you see, after a time, what would happen is that people would give their servants what we call in Jamaica the old brook and the what left. Now, this was passed to Jamaica, and of course, the idea of Boxing Day is actually an insult, but you never take away a holiday from the people. The best way is to convert the holiday to something else, and I'm suggesting that it is converted into National Family Day. It is a day when families meet in any case. So, since Jamaica has a terrible family problem going back to the days of slavery, where children are born out of wedlock, don't know their parents, and so on, this would be one way of focusing on it. There are some that would have an objection to a National Family Day where there would be a focus. And the reason is this. Because of our family problem, we have children's homes. And of course, it is considered a good thing. And it is a good thing when people adopt these children rather than them having to live in a children's home. But not all the time the adoption is a good thing. Not all the time. Some people find a way around paying servants minimum wages. What they do is simply adopt children from a children's home and turn them into gardeners and servants where they do not pay them even the minimum wage. And if we were to emphasize families, over the years, probably in another 30, 40, 50 years, we would not need children's homes. And therefore, the people who use these children and turn them into slaves would object to a focus on Family Day. In the same way that the slave owners in Jamaica raised the biggest objections to the abolition of slavery. These will be the same people. But be that as it may, I still suggest Boxing Day should be Family Day. And as I said, there's a long-standing tradition, and certainly in the Christian church, for making holidays more meaningful while retaining the holiday. The Passover, the Jewish Passover, was converted to the Lord's Supper for Christians. The fruit festival, which was called Pentecost, 50 days after the Passover, was converted to the coming of the Holy Spirit and the birth of the church. Pagan observances were converted to Easter and Christmas. By the way, Easter is the most important celebration in the church, not Christmas, because if Jesus Christ was not resurrected, then his birth would be just like any other. But it's the resurrection that is the ultimate proof that he is God. However, to make it more meaningful to the Romans, who were the center of the world then, the pagan observances were converted, right, from into Easter and Christmas. The goddess Eostre was the goddess of spring. So, and spring meant new life. People understood that. So therefore, the resurrection is new life, and that's why we do baptisms at that time, new life. And with Christmas, the feast of the unconquered son became Christmas Day. So there's a lot of precedent for it. In Jamaica, there's even precedent, because World Empire Day was converted to National Labor Day. The original intention was for Labor Day to be on May 24th, but was changed to May 23 to celebrate the anniversary of the start of the labor movement. Because while it was not relevant to have World Empire Day with our children singing "Rule Britannia, Britannia rules the waves, the British shall never again be slaves," although our people were in slavery. And Norman Washington Manley, as Premier, saw that this was just not relevant. But he would not take away the holiday, because you never take away a holiday from people. What you do is to convert the holiday. So to keep the after Christmas holiday and change the name to National Family Day, to change its focus, would well be in the tradition of the church. Boxing Day originally was when the servants got their Christmas boxes, as I've told you already. And it really is an insult to our people. Really is an insult to Jamaicans. 8 months away from celebrating 60 years of political independence in August 2022, to still be talking about a day when you throw things to give people. It really is. And it would have to be the postmen and the garbage collectors themselves who would have to one day say that they would prefer to get proper wages more than having to be begging things at Christmas. But that decision has to come from them. You can't take it away from them, because they would never understand. That decision would have to come from them, and it may come some decades in the future. The focus on family life will hopefully one day lead to responsible sexual behavior and all children growing up with parents. There will be some resistance. There will be some resistance, because there's a lot of business, apart from the fact that so-called members of the upper class, will not have homes to turn the children into slaves. There's a lot of money in sexual immorality. The condoms that are sold, the money that is made from preparing the instruments that doctors use, or so-called doctors for that matter, in abortions. These are the reasons why people object and would object and say, leave Boxing Day alone, and it's quite all right, and this is what we have always had, and so on. Check their reasons. But all of this reminds us of the sort of world that Jesus Christ came in to save. And this is what Advent is all about. Advent, which ends with the Christmas vigil tomorrow. Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. And as I said in my last commentary, remember the third verse of O Holy Night. And at least we in the Catholic Church keep that verse in our hymnals. Truly he taught us to love one another. His law is love, and his gospel is peace. Chains shall he break, for the slave is our brother, and in his name all oppression shall cease. Please have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.